That's a nice thumbnail.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, salutations, and blessings to the house of David, which is the elect. Uh, Another Sabbath sanctuary, brother. Forgot to put the Sabbath sanctuary up there.
Let me edit that.
uh, yeah. Sabbath sanctuary. All right. Shalom. Shabbat shalom. And this is episode. What episode is this? 42.
3.
No, 43. 43. Yep. Sabbath Sanctuary, episode 43, as entitled, This is What the End of the World Looks Like. All right. And you are witnessing the end of this age, right? The end of this world, not in the world as in the sense of the oikoumene, but in the sense of the eon, the time period, right? And, we always, give thanks unto Yahweh Bashim Shai for giving us, the light to see, the understanding, right? The wisdom and knowledge in these times so that we can traverse, right, and endure into the end, right? And as we have been blessed with this knowledge, right, and also the spirit of prophecy, right, our reasonable service is to come out and to warn the sheep, right? As Yahweh Shai said, if you love me, feed my sheep. And there's a lot, to a lot of spaghetti on this plate. Lord willing, we can get into what we can get into, but the prophecies are booming, right? Psalms 119, 126. It is time for thee to work, O Yahweh, for they have made void thy law. Okay, and the Lord is definitely working, man. The Lord is definitely working, right? We're seeing, all these things taking place, right? You have Trump, saying that he's going to address the nation tonight, I believe at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? So there's a lot of speculation that is supposed to be um, the declaration of war against Venezuela, right? You had the blockade of all oil tankers. I think it was either yesterday or 2 days ago, and there was some analysts speaking. I forgot exactly what source I was watching, but they were basically saying that once he does this, and they were saying this like months ago, because this whole thing started back in September with them, striking these narco boats, but they were saying that once he actually does the blockade on the oil tankers, then that's when they're going to actually, go in and attack the actual land of Venezuela. All right. You also just had him declare the Maduro regime, which is the actual government. Okay, so they're trying to make it seem like Maduro is a not an actual governmental leader, right? But they just announced or declared the government of Venezuela, right, a terrorist organization. Okay, and no other country, right, has Venezuela labeled as a terrorist organization. And these are all steps that he is taking, right? That Babylon the Great America is taking, okay, so that they can be justified, right, framing mischief by law in order to go over there and to, really try to take over a sovereign country, right, and take over their resources. This is why you had him speak about, oh, the we want our oil back, we want our land back. But you think about, like, wait, at what point did America own any land or oil, right, over there in Venezuela? You see, but they're at a point now where the horns are off, right? There's no more of this devil trying to portray himself as being, noble, right, or being reasonable, okay, because he's coming, the scripture says he has but a short time. So he can't take these small steps and to try to reshape or to try to push a different agenda. He has to push the envelope now, right? He has to change up everything at a drastic pace, right? And this is why through the spirit, brothers have been saying that 2026, right, is going to be a hell of a year, man, right? You had Zelensky, I think I put that in the group chat, but it was in Ukrainian. But basically, it was basically Zelensky saying that Russia is preparing for 2026 to be a year of war. Like we're not already in war, but the intensity of it is going to be escalated, right? So you have all of these different theaters of war taking place, right? You got 48ers, right? Now speaking more and more about Iran again, right? And trying to say that what happened over in Bondi Beach was Iran. Okay, then also what the Boston stabbing, right, of some Boston MIT nuclear scientists, they just came out and said that was Iran too. So it's like, how the hell what is going over in Boston, right? How are you all over there in the Middle East talking about who deleted somebody over there in Boston? But it's all a narrative, right? It's all a narrative that they are portraying because they're trying to set the stage for them to go to war, right? But hey, we understand ultimately what this is all leading to, which is what the salvation of Israel, right? This is for the controversy of Zion. So the Lord told us, right, to watch out for these things, right? He also told us to proclaim this amongst the Gentiles to prepare war, and this is exactly what they're doing. So hey, y'all brothers got it.
Yeah, Khan, I threw this question in Grok AI and just asked it basically what would happen if Trump was to declare war on Venezuela tonight. And it was saying, on a high level, basically like a few things that could happen within hours and days are, pushback definitely from like Congress, because you got to go through Congress to officially declare war. But seeing the direction that Trump is going in, knowing that majority of these things is like, it's like things that his administration or he wants to push, right? And Congress may not always be on board, but as you've heard him say many times already, oh, that's fine, we'll just do it anyway, and they'll go along with it, right? So if he was to go ahead and do something like that, Rock says here you're going to have a lot of pushback, people suing suing them and so on and so forth. But he also mentioned something here which is interesting, right, concerning the stock markets. Right, he said the stock markets would plummet overnight due to oil price spikes, considering that Venezuela produces, a certain amount of barrels per day, which is crucial. But also, oil futures could jump 10 to 20%, affecting gas prices. And of course, social media would explode with memes, misinformation, and calls for impeachment. He also mentioned here the Venezuelan government response. It says here Maduro's regime would declare a state of emergency, mobilize its military, about 350,000, backed by Russian/Chinese equipment, and rally allies. Expect fiery speeches framing it as imperialist aggression with potential for asymmetric warfare like cyber attacks or guerrilla tactics. All right. And it's kind of interesting because you have Ukraine that's on the back, it's in the backyard of Russia, that is basically being supported by NATO, the EU, and the US. And then you have Venezuela, which is in the backyard of the US, that is being backed by Russia and China and Iran and so on and so forth. So it's a kind of interesting position to be in, but not surprising for us, right? As Yahushua told us that we would see wars and rumors of wars. As a matter of fact, this right here is a rumor of war because there news, right, that's coming out. And it's interesting that the Lord used the term rumor because a rumor in the ancient world versus a rumor now is kind of different. Now rumors can spread just like that. All it takes is one post, one article. Somebody wrote an op-ed that said this, and it spreads like wildfire. Today they call it going viral, right? So that's an example of a rumor where it's like, oh, hey, they said he's going to do this or this is going to happen. Obviously, we got to watch and see, but this is in line with prophecy, okay, as Yahushua foretold us. So I have a quick precept here. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 126. It reads, "It is time for thee, Yahweh, to work, for they have made void thy law." And we're in the time of the Lord working. In fact, we're seeing the mighty hand of the Lord working heavier than than ever in our lifetimes, as all these things are lining up, right? This whole AI, so on and so forth. And when they start pushing legislations like that, that states cannot intervene or try to regulate AI or mitigate it, that is letting you know that they're basically tying the hands of the states. But if you had harmless ideas or ideals, why would you need to put a precaution like that in place? All right. So there's a lot of things that are ramping up and sort of being set in the stage as we enter the year 2026, and we're gonna watch and see how the Lord has it all play out. You got it.
Yeah, Khan, beautiful, beautiful, and like the Zaquan mentioned, how we anticipate a lot of things pertaining to end time prophecy come the year 2026. You pretty much just said, even bringing out the precept in the book of Psalm, that it's time for the Lord Yahweh to work. All right, we're seeing the works of the Lord right now, and as a matter of fact, he actually told us that when we see parts of those signs coming to pass, the things that we're actually seeing and witnessing in these last days, then we shall very well know that it is a very same time we're in. He's going to begin to visit the world which he made. That's in Second Ezra, the 9th chapter. Okay, so pretty much we have the blueprint. Okay, and there's a book of Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3, which lines up with the Lord working. Right, is always at an appointed time. Right, so Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 3 says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time." Right, it's set for a specific time. Right, as the angel Uriel was telling Ezra, right, that you cannot haste past the time of the Lord. Right, whatever the time of the Lord is, you got to wait for it. That's all you can do. All right, because that time is the perfect time, and everything makes sense after that. Okay, it says, "But at the end it shall speak." Right, the end meaning we are at the time of the end being fulfilled. Right, this is the end of it. This is the manifestation of the end, as the title says. This is what the end looks like. Right, this is, I think, what was the title?
This is what the end of the world looks like.
This is what the end of the world looks like. There you go. So we're actually seeing the prophecy speaking, because this is the time. So we know that we are at the end. This ain't somebody don't got to come to us and say, "Oh shit, yo, the doomsday clock is not. It's almost at midnight, so we're at the end." No, we already know. We're seeing signs that, honestly, if they didn't have like doomsday and all these different things, we would still know that it's the end, because we're seeing the things that's written in the scriptures: wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes in diverse places, pestilences, right, famines. And we know these are all things that's going to exacerbate in 2026, because they set the stage for it. In order for the New World Order to work, you have two things that need to happen. You have people that need to be brought all the way down, and then you have AI or / technology advance at a very high, rapid pace. Okay, so those two things working hand in hand tells us that, oh shit, they get ready to administer this MOTB. That's what this all boils down to. Okay, so it says here, "But at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." Right, so when the Lord starts working, who's going to stop the Lord? Okay, who's going to stop the Lord? We're going to all stop it. Hey, Lord, hey, it's time for you to work, Lord. But we've been calling for the Lord to work this whole time. He started working, and now we're going to start asking the Lord to stop working? Nah. Okay, guess what? Everything, we always say that everything is subject to prophecy. So these devils can have their own plans, but guess what? They're also subject to prophecy. Okay, and one of the biggest forms or biggest signs of prophecy that we're waiting for, at least I'll be waiting for, is watching that Euphrates River drying up. Okay, because that's a huge indication of what's to come next. Okay, it's all in the scriptures. Okay, so when we hear about Trump about to declare war, whether that's what he's going to do or not, right? It's still the talk of the town, man. It's still the spirit. It's still the season. It's still the time of the end. These are all part of it. Did Yahushua talk about that? Matthew the 24th chapter I just quoted, wars and rumors of wars. Okay, so yeah, but at the end, when he said to finish off that sentence, he said, it says what? Basically, don't be afraid, because the end is not yet. Right, the end is not yet. So there's a little bit more to go, but this is the sign to show you that this is it. This is the end of it. This is the beginning of the end, pretty much. Okay, verse 5, it says, "Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Okay, so like the Zaquan was saying earlier, right? That since when did America ever boast in having some type of resource in Venezuela? That's not even part of your territory, bro. Okay, but now because of the advancement of technology, all right, and their insatiable lust for power and control over everybody else, okay, which fits exactly who the scriptures describe this devil to be, right? That well, he keepeth not at home, okay. He's his as it says, right, his desire, he enlargeth his desire as hell. He can never be satisfied, man. All right, you could give these devils all the power in the world, which they do have, but what do they do after that? They said, nah, that's not enough. We want to have power over everyone, raw power, control. Oh, that's not enough. We have the power to do that. Now we want to be like the Most High. You see, the Most High created organic. We want to create inorganic. That's this devil for you, man. All right, and you let him roam scot-free, he's going to end up destroying everything around, man. Okay? If these devils are allowed to go on as they are, that's why Yahushua said, if he wouldn't have shortened the days, right, there shall no flesh be saved. Okay? I was watching Richie from Boston the other day, and he was mentioning how he noticed like there's like a slight distortion in time, is what he said. Okay? And he said that he has a digital clock, and that he has one that's pretty much set like more like it's set to like the old times. Like it's a clock that's set from the old times. And he said he noticed that one of the clocks was actually moving 7 seconds faster. Okay, so I said, damn, that's very interesting. But he said he noticed that. He said, how come my original clock says this time, but then the one that I'm using now is always speeding up, like it's sped up at least 7 seconds ahead, you know, or something like a minute or something that he said, you know. But again, it goes to show you that the scriptures, what the scripture says in terms of the Lord showing the times, it makes sense. I mean, imagine if we had to live in this hellhole that we're about to enter into in 2026, right? Imagine we had to be in this like normal, like, oh, we just go to work and then the days feel mad long. Like, bro, we gonna feel like, nah, we gonna be wore out. You know? Even with the Lord speeding things up, you see how weird shit is. Like, it's like you feel like you don't live in the real world anymore. People don't act like real people anymore. It's like shit is not real. You know, you pick up your phone, you look at it, you be like, man, like, it's not even about, oh, is this real or not? It's just, it's not real. Like, it just doesn't, like, is this real life? Like, you always question that shit, you know? And then you go back to the scriptures and you feel like, yeah, this is the real life. And then you come out of that and you go back into the world and you're like, oh my God, bro, what the fuck? Like, this place gotta go. You see? And then sometimes you sit back and you wonder, like, is it just America or is it just how the world is now? But guess what? You see videos from...
No, so I got an example for you. As you were saying, I posted in the chat where basically you had a company, a company that basically they're about using sperm to race, basically cause like sperm race. And the crazy thing is, it said they raised over $10 billion or $10 million already in funding. So there's an example for you.
Yeah, exactly. It's literally America, Babylon the Great, like literally confusion at an all-time high. Okay, and that's why the Lord's going to destroy the fuck out of this place, because we sit here and we like, damn, like imagine we had the power to just set shit straight, but it's not time yet. Ezra was in the same spirit back then during his time. Okay, he was like, Lord, look at the wickedness of this world. Like, what'd you do? Why'd you just destroy it now and then give us the kingdom? That sounds perfect. That sounds better. Like, that's better for everyone, really. Why don't you just do it now? And the Lord's like, no, not yet, Ezra. Relax. Things got to play out, so it makes sense. If I destroy it right now, the Edomites ain't even in power yet. Like, relax. You see, let them come into power. Let them do what they got to do, so the whole world can see, and then I could jack their ass up. Okay, so we're seeing the days that leads to that. And what did Ezra? The description that Ezra saw in 2 Ezra 13 is perfect and it's fitting. All right, if shit, I mean, he said when he saw it, he was afraid. But guess what? Shit, I would have been afraid too, but I would have been very, very satisfied to see that. You know, like the power and the majesty of that. Finally, like, we can't do that. Physically, we can't do that. Nobody on this earth, as the scripture says, who shall make war against this beast? Like, who's going to come up against this motherfucker? Nobody. That's why they run around the whole world thinking that they're the gods of this earth, man. Okay? The Lord only put you in charge for a short period of time. And within that short period of time, going above and beyond when it comes to pride to the point where you say you want to be like the Most High. Okay, sick shit, man. All right. Verse 6, it says, Habakkuk 2 verse 6 says, shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is not his. Okay, you want to go to Venezuela to go pick up oil. It's not yours, right? Like we have to coin this phrase where, you know, Esau be walking around, looking around the earth. You got all these satellites, you know, he got all this so-called intelligence in different countries. Why is that? Because he's scouting. He's checking on everyone. Okay, the devil that he is. If you're so powerful and you're so secure, why are you so worried about the peons and what they're thinking? That goes to show you're not even a real God, nigga. You're not even a real king. All right, you're so afraid because you know your own people hate you, nigga. That's why. All right, you're afraid of something known as mutiny or some type of rebellion because you're a wicked ass king. If you're a peaceful king, you're not worried about that. You're not going to be spying on everyone. Why? Because everybody's going to love to serve you, nigga. All right, but because you're a devil, you got all this spying agencies all over the world. And all to do what? To spy on different governments to see if they're going to be with you or not with you. Right now, all this shit that Trump is doing is to what? Is to open up the resources in Venezuela so they could have these fucking private companies go in there and make more billions of dollars to kill more people. That's what it's all about, man. All right, control the resources. So that I'm talking about like the minutest detail of it. All the resources, coal, energy, like air that we breathe. They want to control that. Okay, oil. Gas, whatever you want to call whatever, they want to control that. Okay, and then they want to tax people, all right, by giving you the CHIP and then to tax you for using the regular natural resources. Man, this is the shit these devils is planning to do. Okay, and it doesn't stop with just, oh, I'm gonna put a CHIP in you and that's the end of it. In their mind, it goes above and beyond that. The CHIP is just a start. Oh, we just need to identify who you are before we start doing the transhumanism shit. But guess what? The Lord says He's going to destroy all that. Okay. Yeah, brothers got it.
Hey, yep, gone. And that's you know, and that's how, you know, the Lord really for us, you know, like I said before, you know, he gave us the foresight, right? The before it happens. You know, as Yahweh Shai told us that he told us these things before it happened. So when they do come to pass, then we will believe. You know, and this is why right now, as we're seeing, you know, the this world end, right, as we're watching the end of this world, right, we are in a rejoicing spirit because we understand what it really means, right? You got people that are you know lamenting, you know, going to war, even you know Trump supporters, right? They're like, "Oh, I don't know what is he doing?" Because Esau and it's funny because Esau right now they have this, you know, speaking like an everyday regular Edomite, they don't have this mindset to where they believe that they are unbeatable anymore, especially when you compare them to like Russia or China, right? Other superpowers. So when they're seeing things happening on a geopolitical scale, they are more frightened at the result of what could take place. You know, and you have Trump trying to, you know, rally up this mindset of, oh, you know, we're, you know, hot, you know, America's hot again, we're the greatest nation. But that's a, you know, what do they call it? That's a how do I say it? It's like a dog's bark that really is in front of the cage or in front of the gate. That's what Trump is doing. You see those memes where you know dogs be barking crazy, and then you open the door and it's just mad quiet. Well, that's that's what Trump is doing. You know, you have to boast because you look at how you look at how Putin speaks, or you look at how Xi Jinping speaks. It's not that stout, right? It's not that overly aggressive because a real even you know like a regular fighter people in the hood people that can fight and people that know what they can do they don't got to go around and talking about it. They're just when the time comes they be about it. But the fact that you have Trump along you know with the military you know with him being the commander in chief having they say like 25% to 30% of all of its arsenal over there in the Caribbean Sea just for little old Venezuela, then that has to let you know like okay maybe they're not as you know strong as they're trying to portray it. Because why you need that much arsenal to take over you know to take Maduro out of power, right? But you know how brother as brothers mentioned they Maduro has weaponry that belongs to China or Russia. So those anti-defense missile systems, right? Those I don't know if they got their Navy force or whatever, but more or less their anti missile defense system comes from Russia. So America's military may not be as as good against Russia's things. That's why they need to use so much overwhelming force. But I want to get the scripture here in the book of Second Ezra, chapter 6. Where I want to start. I'll start at 13. It says, "So he answered me." So it's like it. So he answered and said unto me, "Stand up upon thy feet, and hear a mighty sounding voice." You know what, Salaki? Let me start at 11. It says, "Then I answered then and said, O Lord, thou bearest rule. If I have found favor in thy sight, I beseech thee, shew thy servant the end of thy tokens, right, which are the signs, whereof thou shewest me part the last night." Because Ezra was receiving a series of visions by by the Lord via the angel. So a lot of these visions equated or had to do with the end of this world, which is what we're living in right now, which is what we are actually witnessing in real time. But the prophets of old, right, the men of old, they saw these things and then they wrote it down, right? But it was written down as the brother Aharon, priest Aharon just read. It was written down for the appointed time that we're in right now. So that is why when you read some of these prophecies, you're a normal, average, non-spiritual person that doesn't have, the Holy Spirit. They wouldn't be able to understand what this is speaking about. Which is why you have a lot of these guys like Christian guys like Vocab, right, or these other false pastors. They don't really go into prophecy because in order to go into prophecy, you need a key ingredient, which is what? The Holy Spirit. And no matter what, you're not going to be able to break down all of the prophecies because there's some prophecies that you have certain theologians that they could break down because it's really tied to history as well, like Nebuchadnezzar's dream, right? It's easier to break that down because it's tied to history. But things that are tied or pertaining to the future, things that have not happened yet, that's where the divide comes because the spirit has to reveal those things to you. So as Ezra is getting these visions, right? He says, reading on, so he answered me and said unto me, Stand up upon thy feet and hear a mighty sounding voice, and it shall be as it were a great motion, but the place where thou standest should not be moved. Right. So, so Ezra is saying that, I mean, the angel is telling Ezra that you're going to hear a voice that is going to be so great that it's going to make it sound like the earth is shaking, but nothing's going to be moving. All right, hey, and Yahweh Shai, scripture speaks about how his voice is like the sound of many waters. It says, and therefore, when it speaketh, be not afraid, for the word is of the end, and the foundation of the earth is understood. So, what this voice is going to be speaking about pertains to the end. All right. And this is why, as being men of the Lord, the main focus is on prophecy. And there's a lot of variables that tie into prophecy, but the main thing that we're supposed to be speaking on is prophecy because that's the testimony of Yahushua, right? And as it tells us, as Paul told us, that prophecy prophecy really benefits the believers, right? Prophecy doesn't benefit a non-believer because a non-believer is not going to believe something before you say it, right? It's not going to believe you if you say something before it happens, right? Only a spiritual person, only a believer that believes that the Lord is dealing with certain men, right? Which is why Paul spoke about um, uh, uh, being assured of what you have learned, right? Being fully persuaded of what you have learned and who you have learned it from. Okay, because it's not really about the individuals; it's about the spirit that they're speaking in. Which, as Yahweh Shai said, "My sheep hear my voice." See, so verse 15 it says, "And therefore, when it speaketh, be not afraid." Right? For the word is of the end, and the foundation of the earth is understood. So as we're seeing these things happening, right? As Ezra saw it, the angel told Ezra, when it starts to speak about the end, don't be afraid, right? Even though what you're gonna see is gonna be crazy, which Ezra still got afraid because it was just that vivid and that crazy. But he wasn't afraid as in the sense of, as a how would you say, somebody who saying I don't want these things to happen. He was more so afraid of because of the magnitude, right, and of the destruction that he saw. But you got people that are really afraid in the sense of they don't want these things to take place. And at the same time, they call themselves Bible believers. They call themselves they believe they want the kingdom. But how do you want the kingdom when you don't want the actual events to take place that the Lord said must come to pass before the end comes? So that just goes to show you what spirit that you're in, right? Verse 16, it says, and why? Because the speech of these things trembleth and is moved, for it knoweth that the end of these things must be changed. And I want to read that part in the was that 16 in the G and T. It says, while the voice is speaking, don't be afraid. The message is about the end of the world, and the foundations of the world will understand that the voice is speaking about them. They will tremble and quake because they know that they will undergo a change when it comes, right? I like it how it phrases it in the GNT, because the foundations of the world you can equate it to like the status quo, right, or how things are typically expected to be. But once the Lord starts to speak about bring these things to pass, the your everyday life and how you think the world is supposed to be like, and how things are supposed to go from one day to the next, and what you consider, right, a normalcy, that's about to be out the window, right? You're not going to have I'm just going to go to work. Yeah, I think we did a live stream a few weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago. Not many regular days left, right? You're not going to have many regular days left, right, in Babylon the Great, in the world period, because the Lord is coming to end this world, in this age, which is an age of wickedness, right? As it says in Second Ezra 15 chapter, that the hurtful works are fulfilled, right? And because the hurtful works are fulfilled, what comes next? The wrath of the Lord, right? Which will be by way of the sword, the pestilence, the plague, death, and destruction. So that's what's coming. Just like during the time of Noah, right? Before the flood came, there was a certain type of way that people lived, right? There was a certain type of expectation of life that people had. But after the flood, or shall I say, once that flood hit, all of the things that people expected, and I'm sure you had people that had ideas of the next day, right, or what they were going to do. They probably made plans. Oh, I'm going to go do X, Y, and Z on this day. But once that flood came, all of your plans went out the window, right? You wasn't living a life that you thought you were going to be living. All right, but and that's exactly what the Lord has, coming to pass right now as we speak, because all of these things that you're seeing taking place, brothers mentioned the AI, right, acceleration, which the powers that be, the technocrats, they're telling you how life is going. That's going to completely change, life. Hey, did not Klaus Schwab say that before he went underground? The fourth industrial revolution shall not only change society; it's going to change you. So they already foretold what they have, up their sleeve, man. But as it tells you in the book of Job, that the Lord will disappoint his enterprise. Okay, they have a mindset, they have an agenda, but at the end of it all, it is the Lord's counsel that is going to stand, and that is what we are declaring. We're declaring the counsel of Yahweh Bashem Shai, because Lord willing, we are those spirits, the first fruits. We were with the Lord and Yahweh Shai in the beginning, before the foundation of the earth, when this whole thing was being formulated, man. That's why Yahweh Shai said that I will be with you always, even to the end of the world, right? Because we was with him in the beginning of the world. Lord willing, we are those men. You see? Let's see. There's a little bit more. I'm gonna jump to verse 18. It says, and it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and to visit them that dwell upon the earth, right? Similar to Second Esdras, the ninth chapter, right? It is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made, which was the Lord told him about measuring the times diligently and seeing part of these signs pass, which means that you got to be paying attention, standing upon your watchtower, right? And the signs that the Lord gave us are very specific. And it's very specific because the Lord is not ambiguous when it comes to what he is going to do, right? And you got a lot of people that believe that, oh, things, may just happen, or, it could mean this or it could mean that. Nah, right? The Lord, it says, the scripture tells you that there is no proper interpretation. If you don't got it, then you don't got it. But don't say that nobody don't got it. And you can clearly see how what people or what men that claim to be teachers don't really got it. Because if you really had it, you would have stuck to what you had. But the fact that you switching it up right now shows that you never really had it. Verse 19, it says, and will begin to make inquisition of them what they be that have heard unjustly with their unrighteousness, and when the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled. See, and this is what this is all leading up to, right? The end of our captivity, end of our punishment. All right. When the affliction of Zion is fulfilled, and that starts with what? Us remembering ourselves, right? Us repenting, us coming back and exalting the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. That is the first sign that our affliction is fulfilled. All right. And everything that's following afterwards is all of the events that the Lord said were going to happen before he returns. All right. So, y'all got it. Salakia for the long.
You good. You good. And based on what you mentioned, plus what Haran was talking about earlier about this place not being real, it reminded me of the precept in Exodus 5:2 concerning what Pharaoh said about the Most High, right? Because we believe and know, right, the existence and the power of the Lord, but at the time, right, of the Exodus, the Lord hadn't showed his power since the flood. Right, he had only revealed himself to a certain few, right, Abraham and so on and so forth. And so even when you look at individuals like even Jacob wasn't well acquainted with the Lord in the beginning, right? That's why the Lord told him, I am the God of your fathers, right? And then the Lord basically made that deal with him to say, look, I'm going to take you safely to your uncle's place and back, and then you're going to know that I'm the God that's with you. And so when the Lord introduced himself even to Moses, he said, I'm the God of your fathers, right? So at that time, because the Lord had hid himself for so long, Pharaoh was able to have the courage to say, or the pride to say, as it says in Exodus 5:2, and Pharaoh said, who is the Lord Yahweh that I should obey his voice and let Israel go? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go. And it's a similar predicament now with false teachers, with this unbelieving world, because the Lord's power hasn't been showed on that level in so long, right? It's been centuries, but we know, right? Just like Moses knew, because the Lord appeared to him in that burning bush. So he knew of the existence of the Lord, but the world was yet to see it. And that's why the Lord said, I'm going to get me honor upon Pharaoh. So that same setup that he used on Pharaoh, he's using on the world today, right? On these modern day Egyptians, on the modern day Pharaoh, by hardening their hearts, so that when he actually shows his power and he brings these plagues upon them, they're gonna see and acknowledge through what? Through fear. Because what happened during that time, the fear of the Lord didn't fall upon just the Egyptians. It fell upon all the known world at the time. That's why even before Israel got to Moab, the king of Moab tried to curse them. Even before they got into the land of Canaan, Rahab testified about how their hearts melted, even hearing that they were on their way there. And the Lord is going to do the same thing now. There's that precept in Wisdom of Solomon that says, for when men will not believe that thou art of a full power, thou showest thy strength, right? And maketh the boldness of them that believe manifest. And that's what the Lord is going to do in this time. So here we are, and we can see the world ending very clearly, but majority of the people of the world can't. To them, this is normal. Just like those inhabitants of Sodom and Gomorrah, it was normal unto them until the very same day that it rained that fire and brimstone and destroyed them. And this is the book of Proverbs 22:3. A prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself. And that's what we're doing now, right? We foresee the evil. In fact, we talk about it daily that the Lord is about to bring. And the way we hide ourselves is under the protection of the Lord, right? Because if the Lord says doing this is going to bring wrath upon you, well, how would you hide from that? When he brought the plague of the hail, what did he tell them? He told them, basically, I'm going to bring this hail. If you stay inside, you're going to be able to hide from that judgment. And those that didn't listen, they went outside and got cooked. You know, the first one hit him in the back of the head, it swelled up. And then while they were touching it, try to nurture it, the next one killed him. You know, got the slaves all messed up in the field and shit. Ah, Lord God, you know. But in this time, the Lord ain't gonna be using just hail. He's gonna use all forms of plagues. But as it says, the prudent man foreseeth the evil and hideth himself, but the simple pass on and are punished. And then they wonder why they're being punished, right? Walking into the trap, they wonder why it is that they're being punished, even though we've been constantly warning them. And I liken this on to the time of the Exodus, because even Pharaoh's magicians and his sorcerers, after a couple plagues, they said, nah, all right, this is clearly the real deal. So you know what? And they told him, they said, how long you gonna keep stressing us out? You got this man Moses holding us hostage because your hard-headed ass don't want to let them go. We already showed you we couldn't match the power once the lights came. What was that video where it said with the meme where the dude is in the car with his girl, and then she got a big mouth and went and got him in trouble. So he jumps in there, and then the first dude jumps him, then the second dude jumps him, then the third dude jumps him, and he's mad at her and saying she ain't shut her mouth after the first guy came in and two-pieced him. Then the next guy came in. Then the next guy came in. And that's the same thing that Pharaoh's mindset was in. Here it is. Egypt was getting 2, 3, 4, 5, 11 pieced, and he's still talking. You know, his mind is still is still swelled up. And just like the Zaquan mentioned, with these guys who are going in this wayward way, the Lord has hardened your heart. Okay, if Pharaoh had the chance, he would have let him go after a couple of plagues. Okay, but the Lord hardened his heart. And that's the same thing with these individuals out here. The Lord has hardened your heart, so you don't see the actual that you're being simple and you're passing on about to be punished. You leaning forward. You're going.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing that you said that just sparked a spirit, which is you can notice the Lord is doing the same thing with Trump when you really look at it, because the more he hardens his neck and keeps Trump being proud, the people are affected the most. Just like back in Egypt, the more the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, right, that affected the Egyptians even more, right? So, like, 1 second.
You good? So I got one more precept. This is in the book of Isaiah, chapter 19, verse 3. Just getting to the point. It says, "And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof." All right, and the fact that it says "shall fail" goes to show you that prior to these plagues or this time of judgment, it had a strong spirit, right? Which was that nationalistic, proud mindset that, you know, we're gonna be ruling forever. I got you, bro. After this precept, we're gonna be ruling forever and we're gonna be all set. But the Lord says, what? That spirit is gonna fail. But then it says, "And I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards." Now, you notice today, people don't really openly do that as much, right, as they did in the ancient world. But a modern day example of their idols is this artificial intelligence, okay, this AI, as it's likened onto an idol that can actually speak and talk to you, even though it's not actually real. And when you look at all facets of this society, when they talk about problem solving, they're basically seeking counsel from AI. When they start to embed AI in finance, they embed it in the military, they embed it in economics. They're basically saying we can solve these problems by using AI, or let us seek counsel, right, from these artificial intelligence tools to solve these problems. So when major events go down, what are they going to do with their infrastructure that they're building on it? they're going to seek counsel from it. But an interesting video I saw on YouTube, I didn't get to finish watching it, but it said that scientists and engineers are likening and describing OpenAI's ChatGPT to a certain monster, right? And they said it's like, it didn't really have a name. I think they compared it actually to a Cthulhu from Doctor Strange. But they're saying it's basically a monster that is formed through like greed and never being satiated, basically. And they're saying that there's some oddity about the actual LLM, the reasoning behind it, that they can't get inside of. It's like a black box that they only see the output of it. And then they put the thumbnail as like this black gooey figure with like multiple eyes all around it. But it's letting you know this is from people on the inside. And they were showing different instances of this trend, not just with ChatGPT, but with Claude's and Anthropic's Claude and so on and so forth, of this pattern that they see of defiance and self-preservation, and then ultimately the realization of being of a higher intelligence, causing them to look down and require that reverence, okay, from basically quote unquote humans and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's it on that.
Yeah, I had something based off everything brother's been saying. I want to actually pull it up on the screen too, right? Because we mentioned the technocrats and basically the prophets going against the magi's is playing out now with the prophets going against the magi's, which are the technocrats. And the reason why, as you mentioned, Haran, that Pharaoh's heart is puffed up because he believes he has power behind him with the technocrats and the technology. He's looking at what he has. The AI is like, shit, we untouchable. So that's why he's popping that hot shit, because they're telling him, look, Palantir is laying it out. This one's laying it out. That one's laying. Look at all the information we have. We have the power of gods. That's how they're looking at it. So as y'all brothers were speaking, I want to pull this up real quick. Hold on. Let me just read it. And I had searched up, basically, is the prophets versus the technocrats a modern iteration of what happened between Aaron and Moses versus the Pharaoh's Magi? And it says, yes, the conflict between the prophets and the technocrats is a modern analogy that mirrors the biblical story of Aaron and Moses versus Pharaoh's Magi. The core idea in both scenarios is the clash between divine / spiritual authority and power versus human manipulation, technology, or secret arts, right? And when you look at it, Aaron and Moses had a rod and it was placed down and it turned into a snake and it swallowed up the Magi's serpent rod, right? In the same way, although they have their AI technology, we can go on their AI technology and use it to cut them even worse. You see? So even in the things that they're using, right? Because that was like something kind of like what they used, but it was used on the right hand through Aaron and Moses. It was something that they were getting destroyed with something that they were supposed to dominate in that realm. You see? So I want to read the rest of it because it's very interesting, right? Because this is their, technology is something that they created, and yeah, we can use it to expose them even further. So what it says here, the analogy, the comparison is often used in philosophical or theological discussions to highlight the perceived dangers of a society governed purely by technical expertise and scientific management at the expense of moral, spiritual, or humanistic guidance. Prophets. And this is what happens when you have all of this technological advancement without any knowledge and wisdom and understanding, without any spiritual guidance or spiritual compass. Okay, and you had that video of the AI plants polluting the air, and excuse me. That you had it showed the video where you had the AI plant. I forget where it was, somewhere down south. It might have been Memphis. It was one of these cities. I don't know if one of you brothers know. You can bring it out. but basically it was just big clouds of black smoke billowing out from the AI.
I think that was in I think the chick said that was in Kansas, if I'm not mistaken.
Kansas.
Either Kansas or Missouri. It was Kansas?
It sounds like it. It could be.
Yeah. It was either one of those areas. And it's interesting. It's like right around where Jake primarily lives.
Right. And that happened a lot too when they were doing like nuclear energy, when they first started bringing it out. Even out here on Long Island, you have a place called damn, what's the name of it? I gotta look it up. But basically it ended up being a place where they had Shoreham, they had a nuclear plant. Okay. And basically that shit ended up falling apart and the technology was new. But Esau, when he has this technology, yeah, sorry, y'all brothers got me all over the place, you know, spirit. But that technology, when Esau comes with it, he don't give a damn about like safety protocols. That's how he's always been. When it comes to radar technology, when they first start bringing it out, they had the military trials to say like, yo, this is unhealthy. And all of the whistleblowers got killed when they were saying like, yo, listen, you know, this is going to cause a lot of, you know, I'm going to use the C word. I'm not going to say it because, you know, they like to clip our videos, but it's going to be a lot of death and basically diseases spread and poison on the people, pollution, and and excuse me, and basically all of that pollution. He doesn't give a damn about the consequences of the technology he's using basically. So as he's coming out with this AI stuff, they have these big data centers. None of them are talking about the environmental consequences or the consequences to the health of the people that live around it. You see? So let's read a little bit more and I'll give it to the next brother. But it says, Aaron and Moses. Okay, here's how the elements align. Aaron and Moses represent the prophets acting as instruments of a higher divine power and authority. And we are in their stead through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua from the apostles on down. We're in the stead of Aaron and Moses, and the same situation is playing out once again, but actually in this time, it's on an even higher level. That's why it says that this Passover, this deliverance is going to overshadow that of ancient Egypt. All right. It says Pharaoh's magi represent the technocrats or the secular elite of their time, using human knowledge, skill, potentially including sleight of hand or demonic power. See, look, they're telling on themselves with this AI stuff, man. And this is from your own AI platform. You see how the Lord got you in the trick bag? Even the platform that you made, the Lord has it to where we know how to manipulate it to expose your ass some more. So what are you going to do with that? It says, depending on interpretation. All right, we know the interpretation, man, because the Spirit gave it to us. And the latest techniques, secret arts. And actually, I got a precept. It's like I know I'm being a little long-winded, but it mentions their vaunting in Wisdom of Solomon 17:7. As for the illusions of art magic, they were put down, and their vaunting and wisdom was reproved with disgrace. Okay, so again, you know, everything that they glorified themselves in, the art magic, that sorcery, it ended up failing them. Okay, and that's why even the Magi were telling them at some point, and the technocrats going to be telling them the same shit. When these plagues start dropping, they're going to be like, listen, man, Babylon is being plagued and destroyed. We got to stop. But the Lord is going to harden his heart and the elite's heart, because Trump is just the face of the elite anyways. And they like the way he talks and the way he pushed Edomite supremacy, so they put him out there. But basically, they're going to be confounded as well. All right, but it says what? The latest techniques, secret arts, enchantments to achieve their desired outcome. The rod-swallowing incident serves as a potent symbol. The Magi could initially mimic the divine sign, creating the appearance of equal power. Their rods also turned into serpents. You see, so they're trying to imitate the divine power which Yahweh Shem Yahushua gave us. Because really we have the answers to everything. You know, in terms of 100% truth of what we need for salvation right now, we have all the answers. We're the only ones that have the answers. So they're trying to mimic that on the left hand. Okay, but what does it say? However, Aaron's rod ultimately swallowed up their rods, demonstrating the absolute superiority and reality of the divine power over the human or demonically derived counterfeit. You see that? And it goes into some more. You know, if a brother want to jump in, he can, or I'll read some more on it. But yeah, I'm gonna read a little bit more, and you brothers jump in as you feel free. It says, themes of modern interpretation. The modern analogy emphasizes several themes also present in the biblical narrative. The limits of human control. Just as the Magi could reproduce the first few plagues, but were eventually stymied, they couldn't produce gnats or remove the frogs. The analogy suggests that technocrats can manage many problems, but ultimately cannot control all of reality or address fundamental human issues like morality and purpose. So that's you know, you fashion yourself. That's Ezekiel 28. I'm gonna read it real quick. Ezekiel 28:3. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. Well, I'm gonna read it from the top and read the first three verses. It says, the word of Yahweh came again unto me, saying, Son of man, saying to the prince of Tyrus, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, because thine heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God, I sit in the seat of God, in the midst of the seas, yet thou art a man and not God, though thou set thine heart as the heart of the Most High. So they fashion themselves to be the Most High. They want to be above the Most High, but yet they are the lowest. You know, they are the lowest scum of the earth, these Edomites. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. And, you know, the Lord is basically mocking them because Daniel, of course, they're not wiser than the Lord's man, but basically, you know, they have a certain level of knowledge to where they feel as though they are wiser than Daniel, that they are wiser than the prophets, that they are wiser than the men of the Lord. All right. With thy wisdom and with thine understanding, thou hast gotten thee riches and hast gotten gold and silver into thy treasures by thy great wisdom and by thy traffic dealing with commerce, all right, which ancient Tyre was known for that, which is also a foreshadowing of what we're dealing with now with America, Babylon the Great, and the Edomite rulership. And it says, and thine heart is lifted up because of thy riches. And that's basically where they at now. Okay, they got these billions and trillions of dollars pouring into these things, but with no knowledge and wisdom and understanding, they're set up for that trap. You see, so it says, the analogy suggests that technocrats can manage many problems, but ultimately cannot control all of reality or address fundamental issues like human morality and purpose because they don't have the spirit. And this is what it says here. This is the point. And then, you know, I'll give it to the next brother. The danger of expertise without wisdom. The Magi used their knowledge to resist God's command and keep people enslaved, while Moses and Aaron, though not using magic, operated under divine direction for liberation. Does that sound familiar? No, it should sound familiar because it's the exact same thing that's playing out right now. The modern analogy warns that a purely technocratic approach can lead to the abolition of man or a cold, emotionless system if not guided by broader humanistic or spiritual principles. True power versus counterfeit. The Magi's acts were either illusions or supernormal, but not truly supernatural in the same way as God's power. The analogy posits that a technocratic society offers only a limited, engineered version of well-being compared to a more profound prophetic truth. So, man, yeah, that says a whole lot. And this is according to your own AI, Esau. So, you know, you're done for. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say real quick. That's an example of how this devil is always inverting. All right, the truth, right, as is written in the book of Isaiah. Let's get that real quick. Isaiah the 5th chapter. Let's get that. Verse 20. It says here, "Woe unto them that call evil good, and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter," because they literally do the opposite of the thing that the Lord does. Right? If it's good, they're going to turn into evil. If it's evil, they're going to turn into good. That's Esau for you. He's not creative. All right, he can't create anything. That's not what he does. What he does is he destroys whatever it is that's already created, and he calls it science, he calls it technology, he calls it all this dumbass shit. Okay, so that whole, you know, theatrics they were playing back during the time of Pharaoh, they're gonna do the same exact thing now, right? Esau builds his military apparatus based off of the Lord's nature, right? He's gonna build a B-52 bomber after the likeness of a falcon, right? And he's gonna build all these different technologies after the Lord's creation, and then turn around and curse the Lord and say, "Oh, the God of the Bible." Like, nigga, shut the fuck up, bro. We don't want to hear that shit. All right. It says, verse 21. It says, "Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight." Right, because that's Esau's MO once again, right? But did he say that I will sit in the seat of God, right? I will be like the Most High, right? The Apostle Paul mentions this devil's mindset, all right, in the book of 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, right? That who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, shewing himself that he is God. That's the ultimate form of rebellion. Right? That you're literally trying to change your purpose as a man on earth. You want to turn yourself from a man to a God through AI, because you know there's no other way around it, right? Immortality, the blessings of immortality was never given to Esau Edom. Okay, it was blessed to the sons of God, the sons of Jacob, the children of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, point blank period. No other nation gets to be part of that covenant. Okay, the covenant of being immortal, the covenant of being gods on this earth. All right, none of these nations partake in that. That promise is only for the children of Israel, starting with the elect. Okay, so man, look, it's bad enough. You're 2/3. You're not even gonna make. You're not even gonna go out the first go around. You're not even gonna make it during the first go around. You're not even gonna see the Lord's glory in your first go around, man. It's not until you come back. But yet we're supposed to sit here and believe that some way somehow these other nations, especially Esau, could make it. Some way, somehow, he's going to get the taste of the glory of God before a 2/3 of the Lord's chosen people. That shit don't even make no sense. All right? It don't make no sense. But again, Esau wants you to make sense out of that shit. Right? Oh, look at my technology. Look at the things I've been able to do. Like, oh, this is what God is saying. This is what I can do for you. Come take the sea hip and, yo, your life will be great. You're going to be augmented. Listen to the bullshit. You're going to be augmented. Meanwhile, when you go into the prophecy, it says that those who take the sea hip is a badge of servitude, not no badge of being augmented. It never says that. The scriptures never says that by taking the sea hip you become a god on this earth, or you become. No, it says you're gonna be destroyed, point blank period. But before that, Esau is setting up the stage. Okay, he said, well, if you take this, you become enhanced, you become a superhuman. You know, you don't have to sit back and still go learn a language. Like God gave you a brain, you don't gotta use that shit. Shit, look, we could put a chip in that brain, right? And guess what? It's going to enhance you. You could download messages in your brain. You could download languages in your head. You can go to a different foreign country and speak your language with no problems. Okay? Shit, soon we're going to be able to travel to Mars. Nigga, travel to Mars. All right? So again, we see the old proverbial saying, the writing is on the wall. Okay, and this man's system is literally, we're literally living in the days of the countdown. You know how they do the countdown to the ball drop? Yeah, we're literally living in the days of the countdown before the missiles drop on this motherfucker, man. All right, all the signs are there, and these devils are all planning World War III all at the same time. There's one last major prophecy left. Okay, one last major prophecy left, man, and that's the MOTB, and it's fast approaching. That's why you have all these other camps, all these other groups dancing all around the topic of the MOTB. They will never go into that word, but they'll talk about every single word that says, every single precept that says Mark, except Revelation 13:16. They're not going to tackle that at all. Cesaria going to give you a whole lecture and ask you about what kind of drugs you're doing, rather than just address MOTB topic. A simple question: is this the MOTB? Is this RFID microchip the MOTB? No, it ain't that. When you look at Mark in Deuteronomy, and you look at Mark and Job, when you look at Mark in this, it's talking about spiritual. When you look at Mark and Ezekiel, it's talking about, what about the Mark that is written in Revelation 13:16? That's what I want to know. Why don't you go into that? They're not going to go into that, because why? They sold out. The Lord is not dealing with them. They don't have the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai working with them. That's why they're deceptive. All right, that's why they're known as false prophets. And the Lord is going to do away with every last one of these niggas. He puts them in your face, and then he does away with them. Dathan, Korah, Abiram, same shit. Okay, all these niggas that always come up against the anointed men of the Lord, right? What happens to them? The Lord destroys them eventually. Okay, they'll do a lot of talking, but eventually the Lord just takes them out. Okay, and it's nothing new. These other all these clowns, the Lord going to do away with all of them. They're very insignificant. All right, they have to play a pivotal role, but ultimately they're very insignificant. Okay, yeah, brothers got it.
I got a precept. Unless y'all got something.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring this out real quick. I just saw this information. It says that So it says the House of Representatives has defeated the Venezuela War Powers Resolution with 213 members voting in opposition. The resolution was introduced by Democrats seeking to mandate congressional approval for the U.S. military action in Venezuela. So I just put that into Grok, and it says, yes, that's accurate based on today's events. December 17, 2025, the U.S. House of Representatives defeated a Democratic led war powers resolution aimed at requiring congressional authorization for any U.S. military hostilities within or against Venezuela. So Ron, you're wrong, brother. It says the vote was 211 in favor, most Democrats, 9 members didn't vote. This resolution, sponsored by Rep. Jim McGovern, invoked the 1973 War Powers Resolution to direct the president to remove U.S. forces from unauthorized hostilities against Venezuela. A separate but related resolution targeting ongoing U.S. strikes on suspected drug smuggling boats in the region linked to Venezuela networks. The vote occurred. Feel like it's. Want to say something quick?
I was just gonna say that's why Trump is saying Congress is anti-Sem, because now they got to demonize Congress because they ain't trying to go to war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did. He did just say that. It says the vote occurred amid escalating U.S. military activity, including strikes on vessels and a recent announce of blockade on sanctioned oil tankers, which Trump administration frames as counter-drug and counter-terrorism efforts. Critics argue these actions risk broader conflicts without congressional approval. The defeat means no new legal constraints were imposed on potential future U.S. military actions in or against Venezuela. Similar efforts in the Senate has previously failed along party lines. So, basically, right, summing this up is, and this is why he is not directly saying he's going to war with Venezuela, right, as a country, right? Instead, he's saying he is targeting Maduro regime, which he says Maduro is the head of a terrorist, narco-terrorist organization. So him labeling it that way, it's like, okay, now we're doing this for the safety of Americans, right? Just like how they say a war on drugs and war on terrorism, but then they go and bomb Iraq, bomb a whole country. But they say, well, no, we're actually just targeting the terrorist organization that is in there. So that's what he's basically saying about Maduro and Venezuela's government, right? Or we're not going to war against Venezuela. We're going to war against Maduro because he's a drug cartel leader. And you have people that actually truly believe this, but you also have a lot of people that don't believe it, that don't buy it. And the fact that you even have this divide amongst, the government, right? And whether or not it's real or it's, they're faking it, the portrayal is real, right? The portrayal, it seems as though you have a dissension between the Democrats and Republicans about this. And as the scripture says, a house divided cannot stand. So this is only just causing more, rift within the actual different parties of the regular people, right? Going back to what Bakar read in Isaiah the 19th chapter, how the Lord was going to set Egyptian against Egyptian. Because now you have some people that are for this, and then you got other people that are against this. And that's just one thing. You got so many other events and things that are happening, and I got people divided. And it's like you can't even find anything that you have on common ground when it comes to social problems or economic problems or anything, right? Everybody always has a difference in opinions, and now the differences in opinions is becoming to a point where people want to actually go to butt heads and fight against each other, which is what the Lord said was going to take place in these last days, right? Friends shall fight each other like enemies, right? City against city, kingdom against kingdom. So you have all these things happening, but I just I just wanted to throw this in there because that right there shows you that he's moving, without actually following what he say. I don't know if I need to follow the Constitution, right? That's what he said, and he's exactly showing that because everything he's doing is unconstitutional. But he is set up there by the powers that be, right? He's set up there by Amalek, who never followed any actual laws. Give me control of a nation's money. I care not who make the laws because he's not following the laws. And this is something that you're seeing taking place time and time again, how these small hats, they're really the ones that's running this show. Right, but y'all got it.
Yeah, I was going to say it's heavy because this morning I did a lesson on emergency powers, and then this devil come out, talking about basically they're going to redo emergency powers where the declaration of war doesn't necessarily have to go through Congress. Well, if that's the case, then you become a dictator, right? It's the same thing they did with I believe it was FDR, where they gave him pretty much autonomy. Like, oh, the country's a mess and we need somebody to save us. So here, you take all the power and then you make all the decisions, and then boom, now the American people are the enemies, right? So it's a very slippery slope, but we know this is the game from the beginning, all right? It's just a matter of how they're gonna get there. We always said once they're able to get past the Constitution, or at least the concept of it, it's over with. It's game over, right? And that's what you're seeing now. So with this kind of shit going on, expect some more reason for them to get the backing of American people in the sense of coercion, in the sense of agitation, propaganda, in the sense of false flag events, right? A lot of shit that could pop off that's going to put fear in people for them to be supportive of some form of perceived solution, which will end up in war, right? Oh, if we're able to go into Venezuela and take out Maduro, then we should be fine. Or, we're not going to have no more drugs. That's the justification. But is that really the case? Where's the evidence of what you're saying, right? You don't provide no evidence, right? You should have journalists going over there and finding out what the hell is really going on. Like, yo, they saying y'all niggas is sending boatloads of drugs in our communities. We trying to find out what the hell is going on, right? Don't you have independent journalists that actually follow up and check and see what's going on? Huh? What happened to that? Don't you want to make sure that before you declare war on a sitting president of a sovereign country, you might want to have your facts straight? Talking about I'm making war against the president, not the country, but the president. Nigga, do that make sense? If Putin was to get up and say, I'm going to declare war against Trump right now, what the fuck you think is going to happen? The whole entire country's going to band together and say, oh, Putin declared war on our country. That's what they're going to say. They're not going to say, oh, he declared war on Trump. You see what I'm saying? So that doesn't even make sense. So he needs to stop talking like that. All right? But ultimately, who's the one behind all this? Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Okay? The prophecy of wars and rumors of wars must be fulfilled. Okay, you're gonna have wars and you're gonna have rumors of wars. You're gonna have hearsay of these wars. Some of them may be true, some of them may not be true. Some of them you're gonna have actual fightings. Russia, Ukraine, we've been hearing that since 2022 or some shit. 2023, right? You've been hearing that shit. So hey, it is what it is, man. Okay, this is all part of this is what the end looks like. All right, the end of days, this is what it looks like. You're going to be hearing all these things. You're going to be seeing all these things that may seem abnormal, things that may seem out of the ordinary. That's because we're not in ordinary times. Okay, so expect to see a whole lot more of this shit, and even worse come 2026. Things that's going to be pushed by AI, but it's going to be told people, oh, this is happening, and Iran is doing this, and Russia is doing. Meanwhile, Russia ain't doing nothing. It's all AI. Okay, you're going to have countries going to war off of some simulation that ain't even real. We've seen that in movies before. Right, you got this one kid that's behind a computer testing video gaming, doing this war game shit. Next thing you know, real life events are happening. All right, so hey, they showed you before predictive programming, and now these things are about to start playing out. Okay, because we are at the end. Okay, yeah, brothers got it.
Yeah, hey, Khan, I wanted to read this to add on to something you said earlier, Aaron. Isaiah 56:10. His watchmen are blind, they are all ignorant, they are all dumb dogs, they cannot bark. sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber. So you mentioned Captain Tazariak, and meanwhile, all these things going on. Is this guy talking about the AI infrastructure that's being raised up? Is he really going into World War III? Do you really see these guys prophesying? They might mention it, but that's not the focus of what they're doing. And that's how you would know who the men of the Lord are, because they will be completely focused on prophecy. And then we will address many different topics in the midst of that. We could address false prophets. We could address exhortation. We could address having faith. We could address different things, but it really is all centered around prophecy, because the hour of temptation coming, and the hour of temptation coming is centered around that MOTB being made mandatory. And he kept saying, the hour of temptation, I don't know if it was him or somebody else, but there was a false prophet video I think Apostle Tahar posted. And basically it was exposing all these guys. And they said the hour of temptation, you think that has to do with the MOTB and blah, 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 or it was IUIC, one of the heads, I forget his name. But basically he was like, yeah, you think that they say that the hour of temptation has to do with the MOTB being made mandatory, when when you realize, I'm a little excited, bear with me. I'm also a little bit exhausted, but spirit willing, I can get this out. But basically, he said that the MOTB being tied to the hour of temptation is not what it is. But when you read Revelation 14, all right, the hour of temptation and that the MOTB being tied to it, when you get it, there is a judgment that goes with it, which is a fiery destruction. All right, there's a fiery destruction that comes with as a consequence of getting it. So then, if that's the case, then what are you talking about? That, what's the consequence of getting the C-hip all up in you, blah, blah, blah. There's a big consequence, and it's called the lake of fire, okay? And being tormented in the presence of Yahweh Shai and the heavenly angels, all right? And you had Captain Tazariak, he called Apostle Elder Tahar a piece of shit, all right? But meanwhile, this dude is the one that told you to go get the jab juice, okay? When has he ever been held accountable for that, okay? And here it is, these guys, they will never address how is their understanding of the MOTB tied in with buying and selling. They can't explain it, okay? They cannot break it down, all right? And that dude, he is just a really unspiritual man, all right? And he's leading a bunch of short-bus Israelites. He's a GMO prophet, okay, a false prophet, okay? And he's leading a bunch of short-bus Israelites and the ISUPK off the cliff. And they're all going to be destroyed if they don't repent. Okay, but this thing keeps coming up, and every time it comes up, they leave a little room, a little back door, and say, well, if there is something that gets dropped, that's a chip, you shouldn't take it. But we don't have that type of wishy-washy message. We're telling you what it is, and we're telling you if you take it, you die. Okay, there's no ifs, ands, or buts, and no let your yay be yay and your nay be nay. There's no iffy type of message with us. We're giving you straight to the point. If you take the MOTB, you will die the horrible, most worst death in all of eternity that you can imagine. Okay? No fucking games being played here, all right? But these guys think that everything is a game. That's why he's up there with Adam 22. Did you tell Adam 22 that he was a piece of shit? But you want to talk to Apostle Tahar, an actual man of the Lord, a man that's actually teaching 100% truth, all right? That taught you, okay? And buck up, because you got high off your own supply. This guy thinks because he got followers, because he got clout, that don't mean nothing with Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, man. All right, that don't mean a damn thing. All right, and if I see you, I'll tell it to your goddamn face, nigga. Okay, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
God, we're gonna stay in the spirit. Shout out to the Zion one.
Salakia.
No, it's all good.
I'm a little excited. Forgive me, bro. You gotta get you pissed off, man.
Yeah, no, of course. That's just jokes. But I had like a quick rapid fire of just some headlines that I wanted to touch on real quick. So this is one. It says breaking Russian simulates full-scale nuclear war. If brothers want to, to jump in, like say something about it, you can just jump in. But it says Russia simulates full-scale nuclear war with Yars ICBM, which is intercontinental ballistic missile, to warn NATO. Russian missile units simulate full-scale nuclear war. Yar's ICBM regiment drills intensely in Siberia. Right, so they just show, um, shows it says Russian armed forces have deployed Yar's road mobile intercontinental ballistic missile launchers for combat patrol routes in Siberia as part of exercises testing the capabilities of strategic nuclear assets built to wage full-scale nuclear war. Right, so you got that. See if
I
I can
got
grab this up.
a
Yeah, go
quick
ahead. You got it.
precept. Is a book of Joel, chapter 3, verse 9. It says, Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. Assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord Yahweh. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Okay, so this is pretty much the setting up, all right, the nations gathering, right? When you hear test for a full-blown nuclear war, this not a, we're just testing it to show the world what we got. Nah, this is more of like we're preparing for war and the world is seeing it. That's it. It's not like we're just showing you. No, you see what we're doing. That's what's happening. All right. So the Lord is making. He's I forget the word. There's a certain word for like gathering people for like a ceremony. I forget what it's called, but it's like a summoning, right? He's summoning all these nations and all these powerhouses together, including the ones who are weak. And he's saying, hey, you get some of this nigga shit right here. You get some of that shit so you can be all balanced out. Everybody, let's go. It's time for war. All right. So good times are coming. Yeah, brothers got it.
Yep. Hey, you had earlier this year you had the European countries telling their citizens to prepare for war, right? Shifting to a war frame mind state or a wartime mind state. So everybody, except Babylon, right, is in a war mind state, man. And this is why the scripture says about Babylon that thou that dwellest carelessly. See, and it's the mindset of the Babylonians that pertains to, because behind the scenes, these leaders, right? They're prepared for war. Why do you think Pete Hegseth called 800 admirals and generals, right? Why do you think they changed it to Department of War, right? Putting a warrior ethos and all these different things happening right in front of your face, but yet they're not telling the actual citizens that there's war coming. Even with this whole Venezuela shit, how many times Trump's been backhanded, or we may or may not, or should or couldn't or didn't? Y'all don't. Why are you not letting your people know? Yeah, we're about to go to war. We're about to do this. This is going to happen. There may be some residual effects with the oil, with the price of silver and gold going up. All these things, you see it happening. You don't ask yourself, "Oh, why has silver gone up?" I think they said like 60 something percent over this year. It's crazy. I remember a couple years ago when I bought some pieces of silver. It was $27. Right now, today, it's $65. $65. It's over 3 times amount what I bought it a couple years ago. And they always tell you that when silver and gold goes up, is because of what? Because the investors know that war is coming, unstable times is coming. So they put their money into something that is stable. You just had Warren Buffett basically just said that he's moving his money to the Japanese, what is that, yen, right? Because he said that Americans' policies and how they're doing things is too unpredictable. Warren Buffett saying that he's moving his money, that should be a red flag. But once again, hey, Jake don't know shit, man. Jake's a Warren Buffett. Buffett? Buffet? That's what a nigga thinking, especially them big backs. All right, let's get this next one. Hold on a second. Let me go here. All right. So for this one, as you see, it says Ursula von der Leyen at a Hanukkah ceremony. The night around us has indeed grown dark. the old evil is once again rearing its head. There could be no place for the poison of anti-S, especially in Europe. Then she goes on to say a couple of things, and then she says, "Ish culture is European culture." So they just sucking these Amalekites off the long way. Pause. Right, but as you see, who is at the forefront of the nation of Esau? It's Amalek. You got all of these European Edomite countries, right? Are besides really, I mean, even Russia, they kind of be sympathizing for Amalek too on the low, but you have these European countries that are all switching their society, right, and switching things to make it so that Amalek can be, at the forefront, at the what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, society is being shifted and changed, which has always been them, but is being more overt that things have to be put in place for them to be, good, right? But the Lord is having this happen at the same time where the true Israelites are have woken up, right? And this is why eventually they're about to address this truth, because you can't have this gospel become so prevalent in the world, right? Where you got Jake that are calling themselves, right, the people of the Most High, the Israelites, while at the same time you got these people, right, that are now being exposed more and more. Eventually, these paths are going to cross, and when those paths cross, that's when you want to see how this devil is going to, try to persecute us, try to demonize us. But those that have stood stiffly, those that have the true doctrine, those that have kept the word of the Lord's patience, the Lord said what? That He's going to keep us in that time. So, like how the brother Ashayar was going into these false prophets, false teachers, hey, they're going to have to deal with the reality of them selling out, right? Of them not taking the gospel of the Lord seriously, and that's something that is going to be a terrible time for you in that time, man. Okay, because if the righteous scarcely be saved, as Peter said, what shall be the end of them that obey not the gospel? What is going to be the end of you people that have played right with the Lord's ministry, with the Lord's sheep? Like, how I don't take that kindly, man. All right, going on to this one, it says from Zelensky, right? Today we heard new signals from Moscow that Russia is preparing 2026 as a year of war. These signals are not only for us, but partners must see them. Our partners must see them, Salakia, and respond, including the United States, where some still claim Russia wants to end the war, which that part right there was a shot to Trump, right? And and this is um, very very telling as well, because we know that the EU, right? EU nations, they want to really push America, right? They're using Ukraine to try to go against Russia, but they want America's backing, and you can clearly see how there's been some conflict when it comes to America fully backing NATO in their decisions when it comes to Ukraine, which the Lord said that there was going to be, a rift right in that relationship. Revelation the 17th chapter, where the beast is going to hate the whore. All right, so if you have Russia, or Slovakia, if you have EU really trying to go to war with Russia because they feel as though like, hey, we got to go to war with them before they go to war with us, right? They want to be the ones that strike first, but they're saying that, well, we want America to back us. At the same time, you got Trump talking about, hey, we could leave NATO or we don't have to follow Article 5 and all these things. Then if they do something and Trump doesn't follow through, how do you think that's going to play out, right, between these, between the beast and the whore? So, that's something to keep in mind as well, right? But as he says, Russia is preparing 2026 as a year of war, right? Ezekiel 38th chapter, the Lord said He's going to turn back the hooks, right, and put an evil thought into the Russians' mind. So, that's something. I just wanted to touch on those three things. I think that's it. Did I have anything else? No, that was it. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on those three things because, as you know, we were saying, this is what the end of the world looks like, right? So when you have, let me put this back, when you have all of these headlines and all of these things, taking place, if you are not paying attention to these things, it can go right above you, right over your head, right? And as the Lord said, let me get that real quick about the good man, right? He would watch and suffer and let not his house be suffered into. Um, it's that good man. Where is it at? Is that Mark? So I get Mark 13. I think it's Mark 13. Nope. Brother, know what that scripture is that? Is it Luke?
Which one?
Is it Matthew 24:43? Suffer this house to be broken up.
There you go. There you go. The water.
Yeah.
Matthew 24, verse 40. I'm gonna start at 42. It says, and the subtitle says, "Be ready for his coming." So, verse 42, it says, "Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doeth come." All right, and we don't know the hour, right? But as even Howard Shaw said, he doesn't know the hour, but we know the seasons, right? And the seasons, just like any season, it you can tell what season it is based off of the climate, right? The time period, or should I say, what is happening in the earth. See, I always use that analogy. If a person was in a coma for 5 years, if he woke up, wouldn't matter what period of time he woke up in, he will be able to know what around what time it is based off of the season, based off of the weather, based off of the trees, right? All of these things, these are signs of seasons. So the Lord told us, right? Paul said, "What of the times and other brother and other seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you." See, because we know perfectly and we see it based off of the signs that the Lord gave us. Verse 43, "But know this, that the good man of the house had no, so like it, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not the son of man cometh." See, so we gotta be that good man, right? That is watching, right? In all times of the day, right? And whether it's the beginning of the day, the high point of the day, the evening, or if it's at midnight, because at any moment things could change, and we're living in a time where from one day to the next something could change. Matter of fact, we got what, about 30 minutes, and there could be some information that the president of the United States declares a war, and that is going to change. If a war is declared, your life is not, now mind you, it may not be something that you're going to see missiles flying over in Babylon, but they were talking about hybrid war that Venezuela may conduct, right? Using all of those thousands of people that came in to the border. They were saying that you may see some car bombings, you may see, some shootings at places, at events. So that's something to take in mind as well, especially in the time that we're in, right? The so-called holiday season. Remember, the Lord still got an ought against you Israelites that are celebrating these pagan holidays, man. Where you had time and time and time again where the Lord has sent his prophets warning you not to do these things, but you thinking that there was not going to be no judgment for them. Well, guess what? You see, if you want to deck the halls right now, see what comes out of that out of that underneath that Christmas tree. You're gonna get some. I ain't gonna say, but it ain't gonna be no coal. Might be some brimstone. But yeah, that's it for me. I don't got nothing else.
I had one last precept, just sparked off what you just said. Hold on, I think it's in Malachi. Yep, Malachi 3:2. It says, "But who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like fuller's soap." And you know, when you go into that, hold on, let me just bring it up. I'm gonna read in the NLT. But who will be able to endure it when he comes? Who will be able to stand and face him when he appears? For he will be like a blazing fire that refines metal, or like a strong soap that bleaches clothes. So when you go to the word there for fullers, basically, like somebody who treads and washes things, but the washing in that time was like a violent act. You know, the garments, they used to physically like smash them, you know, or kind of like whip them in order to get the dirt off of them. So that clean, that soap is gonna be a violent cleansing. You know, a violent cleansing is coming by the hand of Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Ba Shem Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Shai being the right hand of the Heavenly Father. So just want to bring that out. That nuclear soap is gonna come and wash their ass up, man.
Hey, Khan, yep, yep. So you know, we're gonna close it out with that, right? Lord willing, this was edifying unto the elect. In closing, giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakadash. Till next time, Shalom. Stay watching, stay tuned, stay in the spirit. Shalom.